Hello everyone, looks like we are live. Tonight we are drawing a ferret in pastels and colored pencil. I am working on Inktense and MeWe. This is the black paper, and I've already pre-drawn this out on tracing paper, and then I use transfer paper to transfer that image cleanly onto the paper so that it's not as, I don't have any eraser marks. And one of the things that's kind of annoying, this camera makes all my lines look super fat. These are actually really thin, wispy lines. They are not as thick as what it looks like. So hopefully yours are also thinner than what my camera is trying to make it look like. That's always a problem when I'm doing anything that looks kind of soft on the live stream. It tends to make things just look more, well, rougher. Actually, there's a really good example. And I want to show you this before we get started just because I want to make sure you understand as you're working, try to make yours softer too. This lion, was this last week's? I think this was last week's. Let me show you the difference on these two cameras. So here is the lion on this one, and you can see like here, it looks really thick, really blotchy. Actually, it looks like the lighting's all washed out too. And then let me show you over here, usually it's a bit more clear. Like, see how soft that looks? The lines are a lot thinner. It looks more like what it actually looks like in person. So just something to keep in mind as I work. Try to make yours a little bit softer than what you're seeing on the camera. I know, that's so helpful, right? A camera that won't show accurately. I mean, it's not that big of a difference, but I like it to look a little bit more wispy and soft. So your lines don't need to be quite that thick. Okay, and let's go back. Oh, no, not you, stop. Here we go. And I think I hit the thing. There we are. Okay, so I'm working on the smooth side of the Inktense and MeWe. And as always, you can get this reference photo over at patreon.com/Lachri. The direct link for this post is in the video description. So go download if you need the line drawing, it's there. The reference photo is there. The reference photo for this one I think came from Pixabay. It was Pixabay or Unsplash. I want to say this one was Pixabay though. And I think we are all set. And as usual, if you are located within the US, you can bid on this. The starting bid is $70. And that's for the original that comes matted. It's a 5x7 and it will fit into an 8x10 mat. So the overall like frame size you would put this in is an 8x10. And Dragon is having another, okay, I just heard him. Where did he go? I don't know if he just put himself to bed or if he escaped. I mean, he can't escape out of that, but still. Anyway, okay. So on to the ferret. Yeah, I think I'm going to put a black back. I'm going to put a bit of black over this just so that it gets me that soft faded look. I think I'm going to pull a little bit of reds in, like a red oxide into the black background as well. I'm using my soft tools. That's 2 Fs. And we're just going to go right over this. This is a bit, like, and by a bit, I mean, oh my gosh, that is overexposed. Let me see if I can fix this really quick. We know sometimes that causes problems, but we're going to try anyway. Oh, and we already have, well, let's do it this way. You boys want a super chat? From Oriole Beagle. Thank you so much. Oops, that's not a fair size. Do you guys do that? I always try to get like equal sizes because some of them are cut smaller and I feel bad if one dog gets a smaller one than the other. I don't know. They don't seem to know the difference, but then I feel all guilty. It's a whole thing. Thank you so much, Oriole Beagle. Okay, boys, lay down. Go lay down. That's all you're getting right now. What was I doing? Oh yeah, I was fixing the camera. So let me see. The exposure seems to be a bit too much. Is it? No, turn off. Oops, wrong camera. That's why. Hold on. Gibson, down. I always do the wrong camera. Actually. That one, that looks much better. And then let me fix the other one. Should have auto. Let's put that, there we go. Okay, I think we're all set. I may have to adjust that as we go a bit more, but for now, we are good. Okay, I hear Dragon, I just can't see him. I think he put himself to bed. I think he went in his cave. And here we go. So back to work. So again, just filling this in. And the reason that I'm putting the black, even though there's the black paper, it's going to help when I put the red iron oxide, it's going to make everything just flow a lot smoother. You could do any color. You don't have to go with the red oxide. You could, if you wanted a secondary color in here, you could pretty much do everything. Now, if you look at the reference photo, you can see like whatever the background was kind of blurred out. I'm not doing that. That doesn't make sense for this piece. Now, part of this around the edges gets cut off by the mat, but I'm going to take the artwork all the way off just so that I can adjust the mat. I don't have to worry about like a little bit not being filled in all the way. So here's our red iron oxide. I'm just going to put a little bit of that in here because I think it'll look pretty. And then I'm just going to let that fade out, blend into the blacks. Now, the red oxide mixed with black just turns into a really nice chocolate brown. So the more you blend those two, the more you're just going to get a brown tone. And that's true no matter what medium you're working in. If you're working with acrylic paints, oil paints, anything. If I actually mix my brown in most cases, well, with acrylics anyway, because the acrylic paint, the brown dries really, really fast. So by adding, just using red oxide and black, that gives me a really nice brown tone that doesn't dry too fast and lasts a really long time. Mine is a little bit more reddish than what you're seeing on camera. Let me see if I can fix that. Not that that's a huge deal because it's more about the values. Mine's also darker than what you're seeing on there. But in case somebody did want to bid on that, I want to make sure you know what you're getting. That's kinda... It's way more, I don't want to say purpley, but that's kind of a weird, it's a little weird. I'll just have to pull it over here every so often and show you, I think, because it's not super, I'm having a hard time getting that to be as close to the, I always wanted to look as much like it does in person, and that's too orange. We all know it doesn't like red, but my gosh, it is really not happy with this. Let me show you in this camera so you can see what I mean. Like, it's much darker. That looks accurate. It's that red iron oxide mixed with the black, so you get more of a reddish chocolate brown. And I almost got assaulted by my drawing board. Okay. Scooch you over there a bit. There we go. Nice and zoomed in. Hi, Rebecca's Art, aka Clay Feathers. Okay, and please leave me your questions. We'll be answering those after the live stream. Oops, this is turned in a way I don't normally have it. Or not after the live stream, during the live stream, after the artwork is done. Okay, so now I'm going to start, let's see, we'll use a little bit of red oxide, and I never get this right, burnt sienna? Burnt sienna, hey, I got it right. Mix some black, a little brown, we're just kind of making a brownish color, and that is going to be this section. And I'll probably add a little bit of white to gray that up some. We're just gonna pull that out and let it fade into the dark. And we've got some of this grayish brown color on his head. And I'm going to switch to a brush that has a point, so it's a little, or is a little bit thinner, so I've got a bit more control. And this is just my raw umber. Raw umber, correct. And we're going to put that in here. Pull some of that up into this area as well. And I'm going to let that raw umber also mix into the reddish brown tones. I'm going to take some red oxide and raw umber, get a little bit inside the ear. And more of the raw umber. I'm just wiping this on my Viva paper towel. An old rag will also work. And let's take some white and start filling that in. Actually, I want that to be more of a pink. So I'm going to mix some red, a little bit of magenta in with my white, maybe some of my raw umber, because we don't want it that light. The problem is if I go that light, when I come back on top with the white pencils, there's nothing for it to work. Like the white won't show up because I'm going over white. So we'll do the white in this pinkish tone. So again, I've got a little bit, actually let's use the burnt sienna. I have a little bit of red, and I'm just kind of tapping it and just barely, oh, that camera, no, it's not frozen. Just barely mixing it in. And I'm mixing it right in my, on my soft, or my pan pastels. I don't care if it gets super messy, you can easily wipe it out as you need to. Again, look how dark this is because I want to be able to have my white pencil show up over it. So this is basically just kind of a peach color, a light peach color. I'm just going to soften that between colors here. Pull that out here as well. And I don't need a ton of pan pastel on the brush to make this work. I'm just getting my base layers. I'm going to be going over that with colored pencils to define that. Now, an inevitable question, I'm sure if no one's asked it yet, they're going to when I start with the pencils. Why don't you just use pan pastel or more pastel pencils? Why colored pencil versus pastel pencils? Because I hate how pastel pencils, they're just dry and chalky and they freak me out, like the feel of them. I can't stand it. You can use them if you're not a little unbalanced like I apparently am when it comes to these. But that is why I personally don't use them. Oh, we've got hold on, a super chat from Tracy. Thank you so much, Tracy. Let's get even sizes. I apparently cut these in really wonky sizes this time. Those two look about the same. Don't snoot me. Snooting me doesn't make it go faster. Thank you so much, Tracy. Is that very tasty? Okay. Oh, let's switch cameras. Go lay down. I'm going to pull a little bit of highlights in here. Most of that's really going to be with the colored pencils though, so not doing too much there. Lay down, both of you, down, down. Gibson. Don't make me use mean mom voice. Gibson, down. Oh, I see we're getting into that I don't have to listen to you phase. The problem is when sight hounds are just so bad about this. They're so stubborn. When they get like that, he'll get to where when you're like, you have enough and you like go grab him to like, you tell him to go outside and he doesn't want to go outside. So you go grab his collar or pull him out. They'll snap. They're like, they can get really questionable behavior because they're so independent with that. Like they're the sweetest dogs, but also they can, so I have to use mean mom voice and not let him get away with that. If you're like, oh, that's mean, just let him stand there. I can't. So what we'll have to do tomorrow is a few, or even tonight, a few practices. God, their faces are, I don't know if you can see their, no, you really can't. Their faces are like right next to each other. Oh, what is in the way here that is blocking the camera? Let's see if I can help that a bit. Yeah, you can't really tell from that angle, but that looks super cute. Okay. And then the eye, I'm just going to do that with the colored pencil. Oops. What am I looking at? Why? Stop skipping. Why are you skipping? The chat thing is being all glitchy and weird. I don't understand. Whatever. Okay. I'm going to go a bit darker. Oh, I'll probably just do the darks then with the black. That really works. We've got the nose, a little bit lighter here, kind of some light blotches. We're going to go a bit darker on the inside of the ear. How many swipes am I due? Oh, that's not me. Never mind. You're... Read the whole thing. I just want this to kind of fade out. Okay, and that is really all I need to save me tons of time with the, like just getting a base layer with my pan pastels. So what I'm gonna do, I'll put a lid back on this and move my phone so I don't spray Spectrafix all over it. I'm going to take Spectrafix and I put it in a, well, I can't really see there, in a fine mist sprayer. I'm going to lightly go over that. By lightly, I mean I do it way too hard. That is way too heavy. Don't do that. You might ruin your work, and if you don't know how to fix it, it might be frustrating. I'm going to take a hairdryer and dry that. So that was actually a really good example, and you can actually, it looks worse on the video than it does in person because it wants to try to make things blotchy. But you can kind of see how it looks a little blotchy, the little dots. That does not look that extreme in person. But that happened because I went too heavy. I was too close, and apparently my nozzle needs to be rinsed out because that, and I'm pretty much, I don't know if you can see, it's like almost out. That sprayed big blotches. So what do you do if that happens to your artwork and you don't need, I'm going over this with fur, it doesn't matter, I don't need to fix mine, but if you did need to fix it, if that sprays and you're like, oh my gosh, that's not what I wanted, all you do is take your soft tool and go right back over whichever area, that's not the one I was using, go back over whichever area is a bit blotchy and just soften that back out. I put it too heavy. That is all, like, I put it heavy because I don't care, I know how to fix it. And what you should do is multiple light layers. Dry it, another light layer, dry it. That is the safe way to go. What I did, putting it that heavy in one go, it works. It doesn't hurt the end, like as far as the end result being archival, doesn't affect any of that. But what it does is you can see I've got little blotches in there now. If I wanted a nice poofy sky, I clearly do not want blotches because I wouldn't necessarily be going over all that with colored pencil. This I'm going all over, so there's no reason to spend the time to fix it. But that is why that would happen. And if it does happen, all you do is just take your soft tool and go right back over it, put a little bit more pastel, and then the next layer when you spray with the Spectrafix, then do a lighter layer, a much lighter layer. So that was a great example of what happens if you do go too light or too heavy. But again, it doesn't, you're not ruining anything. You're just going to have to spend a little bit more time fixing that. So when it happens, don't panic. Okay, let's see if I can get my pencils without throwing my back out all the way. I spent the last weekend, finishing up all my spring yard work, which included getting 35 bags of mulch. That's a lot of mulch, and I did it completely 100% by myself. Well, Matt drove me there, but I did all the lifting. So my back, I definitely screwed it up. And I'm making a big flower bed for dandelions, for Dragon. He likes dandelions, for Dragon, and the bees can eat those. So I lifted a bunch of dirt. I did a lot of lifting. I also fixed my sprinklers. I'm just bragging real quick here. I had to change out 2 sprinkler heads. I had to fix the drip line. Like, I did all of the work, like seriously, 100% by myself. So part of me is bragging, part of me is complaining Matt didn't help. You know, I've got a little bit of both going in there. But it's all done, and my back is super angry. So during the live stream, I might have to get up and stand and move a couple of times. That is why I have angered. I've already got back problems. So that was something, but it's done. So yay. What am I doing? Colored pencil. Oh, and let's go ahead, since we don't need this camera anymore. Let's turn that one off and pull up Main cams, let's pull up the reference photo. There we go. Okay, and again, let me show you over here because that color is so far off. That's what mine actually looks like there. So much darker than what you're seeing on the camera. Now, I've got my handy, this is a cardboard piece that I have taped glassine to one side of. So this allows me to just set it where I need it to be on the easel as I work, so I can rest my hand and I don't have to keep taping and moving glassine. The funny thing is, this piece of glassine has lasted me, when did I make this? Like a year ago? I have been using the same one the entire time. I've not had, I thought I would have to replace it every so often. No, I've just been wiping it down and it's totally fine. So I hardly ever have to buy new glassine. I used to replace it, I mean, it lasts a while, but every time you put a piece up and you tape it, when you take it down, it starts to tear over time and get wrinkled and all that. This has saved me so much money in glassine. Okay, so let's start with the eye. I'm definitely going to want my black colored pencil in polychromals. And the reason that I'm going to go with black for that is it sharpens to a finer point than all of the other ones, being that it is an oil base. And I know you're thinking, but isn't Derwent Lightfast oil based? Yeah, so they say, but in practice, it doesn't, it's more opaque and behaves more like somewhere between maybe wax and oil, but it behaves more like wax than it does by oil. Like if you have a spectrum of how much wax versus how much oil each pencil has. The Derwent Lightfast, I don't know why they call it an oil base. I mean, it has oil, but so does Prismacolor. Like they all have oil. They all have a combination of wax, oil, clay, all these other ingredients. Derwent Lightfast, it performs and behaves more like a pencil that has a higher wax content, which I love. So I'm not complaining, by the way. I love it. I'm just explaining when I say, oh, I'm using this one because it's an oil base, and you're thinking, well, so's Derwent. Yeah, they made everything confusing by having to say that. Yeah, Art of Raven D, exactly. She said, Derwent Lightfast feels more like Prismacolor than it does Faber-Castell despite being oil-based. And see, when they say it's oil-based, they're all a combination. It's just, it clearly has more wax and more clay. Like it leans more to the other direction. So again, not complaining. I love those pencils, but they are not... they're not really what, like they're not as, and again, you think of it as more of a spectrum, how much oil versus how much clay. So, you know, you've got your oil over here, your Faber-Castell, you've got your wax over here, you know, higher wax content. They all have the same, you know, similar ingredients. They're a little bit further down this road on that scale. And I'm just pulling out, so I've got my white, I'm going to just let you know which ones I'm grabbing. I've got, I think this is Light Flash, which I'm pretty sure they've renamed since that, thank God, because that just sounds like a zombie. Let's go with, I'm definitely, because always, going to want my Derwent Lightfast Purple, because it's the best color in the history of any colored pencil anyone ever made, ever. If I can find it. Oh, that one is running out. Where did I put it? I may have to grab one of the new ones. You know what? I'm going to treat myself. I try not to grab the newer, like, replacement pencils until I've completely run out of older ones. Oh, I don't even know where I put those ones. I bought a bunch of new ones not long ago. But anyway, yeah, here we go. Oh, we've got Nightshade. But in this case, my purple is so run down. Let's go ahead and treat myself and pull one of the new ones out. And that is going to feel like happy. And I need to get the sticker off this because that gunks up the sharpener. Let's see if I can manage to do this without removing a finger. There, oh, almost. So close. There we go. Oh, no, you're stuck now. Come on. This is more boring than watching paint dry. Watch Lisa remove labels from pencils. Okay. So we've got the Derwent Purple. I'm definitely going to need to sharpen that. And I always put my sharpening stuff. I just have a mason jar that I keep that, and I use like a little Coombe metal sharpener. And we're gonna get him ready to go. Okay, I need some brown tones. I really like some of the browns in the Caran d'Ache Luminance. They have, I want to say, is it Castle Earth that I like so much? Yep, Castle Earth. This pencil is weird because it has like a scratchy sound to it when you're working with it. It feels and sounds dry, but it doesn't perform like a dry pencil. I don't know why. It's kind of a weird thing, but it's a nice, like my favorite dark brown. We've got purple. we need, let's go with more of a, this one is dark flesh, because dark zombie. I'm glad they stopped using the word flesh in a lot of these pencils, because seriously, it just sounds gross. I might use you. No, burnt ochre, you're a little too brown. You might. I don't know. We'll grab a couple. We've got Faber-Castell Van Dyke Brown, burnt ochre, because it apparently really wants to come out here. Actually, I like you better. This one is Venetian red. Yeah, that's a more likely color to use for me. And I need a more opaque white, so I want my Derwent Lightfast white. Derwent Lightfast white, they have, it's kind of funny, they've got, this one I think is Arctic. Yeah, Arctic, they've got Oyster, and they've got actual white. They all look almost exactly, there's such little difference. The average viewer not going to notice the difference, so I use them pretty interchangeably. I mean, technically, Arctic white is going to be a cooler white. Oyster is more of a salmony white, but it's still white, and then white is white. It looks the same on this paper. You are not going to notice a big difference. Okay, so let's just pick let's go with his eye. Let's clean up that area. I'm gonna first, actually, let's grab a little bit of blue. I like that for around the shine of the eye. I'm gonna use, this is Caran-d'Ache Luminance in light blue. You know, that actually is a fitting name. This is a light blue. So let's put the white where I want that to be first, because it is really hard to get it to be that light again. So it's safer to go ahead and put that highlight down before we put the blacks and the browns. I'm gonna put blue on this outer edge, so it's just like a little, gives it that glossier look. We've got a little bit of a highlight, but it's not, where's my light one? This is, oh, I need to sharpen you too. We've got a few reflections. I'm not going for exact, but I do want it to look, have that glassy look. So I'm going to use this. This is that light flesh, so just any light peach color in there. And then I'm going to take, actually, yeah, let's take my Van Dyke Brown and then fill in the upper section with the black. So we've got the pupil here. We're going to get that upper nice and clean. So I'm pushing a bit harder to make sure that edge is really clean. And let's see, we've got more of a brownish color as we move into this area, but it's a little bit lighter. Let's take that peach color. You do not have to have the same colors or the same brand of pencils. This, I'm just calling out what I'm using in case you do, to give you an idea, but it does not need to be exact. What you want to focus on when you're trying to make something look realistic are the values. Light's light enough, dark's dark enough. That eye looks super shiny, not because I use the perfect blue, not because it's even shaped right, because I've got high contrast between the lights are really light and the darks are really dark, and that's why that is looking super shiny. It's not the detail, not perfect detail, not perfect color. We have a tendency to get hung up on, if I just knew the right color, mine would look realistic too. It will not. The color is not, I mean, it plays a minor role, but it's fairly minor. It's really about dark's dark enough, light's light enough. That's what you want to focus on when you're trying to make your work look more realistic. Now I'm going to use that light peach color here. I'm going to let mine have a slightly more open eye because I think it's cuter. But if I was doing a pet portrait and this is what the owner, like the owner wanted it to look just like the reference photo, I wouldn't round that off quite as much. I'm going to take my Van Dyke Brown and just lightly go over it, let those two kind of mix. And I'm going to throw the pencil on the floor because that's what my back wants to deal with. Oof, that actually wasn't that bad. It's gotten so much better over the last couple of days. It was bad a couple days ago. Okay, let's use the white. Okay, it's actually a little angry about me bending over to get that. I lied. I need a nice cream color. I did not get one of those. And actually, I want to say it's Caran-d'Ache. Yeah, Caran-d'Ache Luminance has some that I really like. Let's go with this one is Brown Ochre 10%. It actually might be too dark, too yellowy. Let's find out. Oh, that'll work. this little corner, I'm going to shade that, pull that out. Okay, now that one's not going to show up well. Let's see if the Castle Earth does. If not, we'll do black and tans. Yeah, Castle Earth a little bit. So I'm going to start pulling that out. And then let's use that brown ochre. Layer that in. Watch the direction. Oh, my computer is doing something weird. What happened? My fan started running really heavily. Now it says it's connecting to the software, which is not. Okay, I think we're back. Everything working? Yeah, I think we're good. Where did my tea go? I had tea in here. Oh, tea. Yay. I mean, it's decaf, but let's pretend it's not. Okay. Back to work. Now, I'm always going to put more detail, let me use the black here and darken some of this up, around the eye, and just kind of less and less as I move out anytime I do portraits. And this is going to help me to keep the viewer's attention where I really want it, which is around the eye. I mean, that's not to say you can't put more detail elsewhere, but it's really, this is the area I'm going to focus more of my attention always, at least for me. And again, watch the direction that that fur is moving. It's actually dark right along the bridge of the nose there. And this brown ochre is actually kind of perfect for the lighter area here because it's not actually white. Haley said, if I get black in the highlight of the eye, is there a good way to correct that? Good question. Yes. In that case, oh, what did I get all over this? Liquid? Something spilled. Oh, yeah, that's liquid. Okay, that pencil's probably not going to work super well. Let me do a quick demonstration on what to do if you get a light area too dark. Hold on. I knew I should have brought one of these dark pieces of paper out with me earlier. Like when I cut this, I thought, hey, I should keep this out. This would be handy. And I put it away anyway. Okay, so let's do it. Oh my gosh, I hope I didn't just undo that camera. I probably, oh, it's still working. Shocker, because I just tripped over the thing. Okay, so let's say you have filled in an area that you want white. We've got, let's put the brown. So you won't really see that much. The point is because there's brown, the white is not going to show up that much. So we'll put a little bit more in there, maybe some purple, a little bit of black. Point is I just want a few coats of pencil on here. Okay, so if I put the white over that, you can lighten it to an extent, especially if you push harder. But this is about as good as that's going to go. Like, it's not that light. Don't use your hand to smudge things. But if I take an eraser, the Faber-Castell Perfection Eraser, I can erase a spot. This is all messed up because it got messed up from it got soaked in oil from my oil painting. I apparently spilled liquid everywhere. There we go. So erase the part that you want to be white. And this is the Faber-Castell Perfection Eraser. Hopefully yours isn't also covered in liquid. Like, I can't even brush it. That's dried liquid. But if you erase the area you want to be light, now that is going to show up much, much better than this. So this, I had to push hard just to get it that dark. This, I didn't even have to push that hard to get it that light again. But you want to use the Faber-Castell Perfection Eraser is more like an ink eraser, so it removes more of the pencil. By removing some of that pencil, it's kind of roughing up the paper a little bit. Don't push too hard with it because you could burn a hole through the paper. But it will remove enough of the pencil and bring enough of the tooth of the paper back to allow pencil to stick again. So let's say you were working on white paper. This is never going to get the paper back to white. That's not the goal. The goal is to remove enough pencil that the white pencil now can stick, and now you can lighten it up. So it's an easy way to fix an area that you got to, and when you use that eraser, like if I use that for a small area, it is going to erase too much. It's too big of an area, so you'll kind of fill it in. I would rather erase too much than not be able to get enough in, so you'll have to refill in part of that spot with black too. Okay. So we've got, let's see, you kind of stick up here with the darker area. Do I have a Faber-Castell ivory? I do. So I'm going to use the ivory for some of this too, because it's sharp. This one is not going to look as grainy gritty as a wax-based pencil because of it being oil-based. It goes on a lot smoother. It will sharpen to a finer point. So for these little hairs, it won't be quite as sketchy looking or like grainy gritty, which I don't care if there's some of that look, but this will give me an even softer look. Don't want to use straight white because that would be too bright. Let's see, that ear goes there. It goes about there. It was missing a spot. And this is kind of out of focus, so we're not going to put a ton of little hairs or anything. It's just in the background. Yeah, if you work in colored pencils, you definitely want to pick up one of those Faber-Castell Perfection erasers. Those things are lifesavers. And think of it like if you remember those old pens and they would have an eraser on it, like an ink eraser, which obviously is not going to work to remove ink. Do you guys remember? I don't know if you ever did this in school. Well, this shows my age because we did not have iPads or computers or anything when I was a kid. So we would take like something that we had written out. If your parents were fancy and you could afford whiteout, you were set. Mine were not. You would lick your finger and get the paper wet where the ink was, and then try to erase it without burning a hole through. Like that was your best bet to try to erase something because you didn't want to rewrite the whole paper to turn your homework in. Yeah, it was hard growing up my age. I remember when I was in 6th grade, we had a teacher who got a new MacBook. It was like such a big deal here, Mac something. It wasn't a MacBook, it was something Mac, something Apple. And I remember him bringing it to the school, and like they brought all the classes in to look at it because it was like such a big deal. Kind of funny. I'm just watching the direction of these little, oh, I'm not all on camera, sorry. Let's back you up at some point. Oh, you know what it was? I just bumped the camera. Let's just move you. Ta-da, you can see. Also, and we've got a lot of kind of a salt and pepper type look, so I'm going to use 3 colors in here. I'm going to use my Castle Earth, so my darker brown, and I'll use black and a little bit of my ivory pencil, or brown ochre. Either of those will work. Or brown ochre 10%, I guess I should specify. See, you are part of that ear, so just kind of mapping out where the light fur goes and the dark fur, figuring all that out. And I'm not pushing super hard, so I can work back and forth with my lights and my darks. But one thing you do want to watch, look at the reference photo. You've got a dark area. Like the fur tends to move, and this is true with most animals. It's going to move in almost rows, clumps and clusters, but rows. Now don't do stripes because that's not what we want either. But we've got, let's see, a dark area. It comes down to the ear here. We've got it going around the ear. So I'm using my black. It goes up, comes back down. We've got this sort of row, this clump. One of the mistakes a lot of people will make is just salt and pepper everything. Even black, even brown, even light color. So you're using the same pencils as me, but they're just even everywhere. Look how mine are clumped together. So I've got this definite section, this sort of row, and I've got a few dark clumps here and there, but they're grouped in clumps. This is what's going to make it look more realistic with the fur. Well, one of the many things that'll make it look more realistic, but really watch that when you are trying to make something look. Poof sticking out there. I'm going to scooch over and work on his nose so that I can work my way back up. So we've got this light area. We've got a lot of the, I'll use Venetian red for some of these light spots in here. Part of this is the side of his fur. Kind of sticks out over here. And back down. And then down again. That away. I hear you moving over there again, dragon. He's digging in his leaf litter. I think he's making his bed right now. You care, I know. Hey, when you don't leave the house, your dragon digging a bed is adorable. I don't get out much. Use my white and start putting some of the fern. I'm using my polychromos white because it sharpens to a finer point and I don't need super opaque here. Not yet anyway. And then I'm going to use my Van Dyke brown and pull some of this back down into that. Just break up that line. I don't know if black's going to help because I've already got so much dark on the paper right now, but let's go ahead and get that edge nice and clean. And we've got this lighter pink. We'll use the light peach color in here. That's part of the fur up there. Let's break up the spot on the nose a little bit. Yeah, see, this looks so much, that's one of the things I'm hating about this camera when I do the super soft look. It's so, it makes my lines look super thick, like I'm using a crayon instead of a colored pencil, and that's not the case. They're super thin, super wispy, much softer looking than what you're seeing in person, or on camera, so I apologize for that. Someday they're going to invent the perfect webcam, and I'm going to buy it. Actually, they probably have good ones that I just can't afford. This one's really good, but you can only run one. And it works better up there for me. I bought two, and then Razer didn't happen to mention, oh yeah, you can only run one at a time. But I used the other one for my office, so it's not that like it was wasted. Speaking of my office, next week we are going to be doing a critique for Patreon members. So if you are a member over on Patreon, get your artwork ready. I'll be announcing when you can start sending those over to me. So that is for next week's live stream. You don't have to be a Patreon member to watch, so those tips will help you no matter what, even though it's not your actual art. They're tips that they'll help everybody. This is a Castle Earth. See, I just keep refining and defining things more. Oh, we've got from Art by MB said, hi pups. It's Loki's birthday today. Happy birthday, Loki. He says hi. Do you boys want a super chat? Oh, that is a yes. That is a big, oh, ow. One for you. Oh, that's kind of a bigger one for you. Oh, see, now I feel guilty because it wasn't totally fair. Gibson's was slightly bigger. Okay, go lay down. Cal, down. Thank you so much, Art by MB. Cal, down. Why is it that listening to people chew and crunch food is the most aggravating thing in the world, but any animal, no matter what type of animal it is, crunching on something is adorable? I don't understand that. Like, I can't even stand to hear myself chew. I hate that sound. Yeah, every time I hear the puppies chew, it's like, that's so cute. Gibson, lay down. curl that first, starting to come in that direction. Art of Raven D said, what about someone's lips smacking every time they chew? Yeah, I just don't hang out with those people. What am I saying? I don't hang out with many people. So now I'm using my polychromos white. Again, I'm going with this one because it sharpens at such a fine point, so it's going to give me smaller lines. Not that you can tell with this camera. That camera's still, yeah, that camera's still working. Oh, and I broke the tip of that. Okay, you know that lead or that sharpener is dull if I'm able to break a polychromos on it. Look how sharp that is, though. Like the polychrome. Well, see, it doesn't even look at that. It does not show fine detail with this camera. Man, I am full of complaints tonight. My back hurts. Pencil won't sharpen. The color's not right. What else can I whine about? I'm sure I can find something. Okay, so here's just kind of little circles because it's super soft. I don't want to try to form too much fur where it's really, really short. We want to keep the fur strokes, and that's something that you really want to watch. The fur strokes we want to save for where the fur gets a little bit longer. This will look a little bit weird until we get whiskers in. I am not pushing very hard. I don't need to add a ton of pressure for this. If you push too hard too soon in your piece, you can't get additional layers. So I want to save anything where I need to push harder with the pencil until my final layers where I know I don't need more. Little circles in there where it stays nice and soft. Oh, we have from Sylvia said, oh, OMG, I'm late, got to give treats for the boys. You hear that? You want a super chat? Cal was quick to that one. Cal's not messing around. Scooch back. Thank you so much, Sylvia. There you go. Cal gets the bigger one that time. It makes me feel slightly less guilty. Okay. Thank you so much. Okay, back to his little snoot. So that side, we're going to pull some Venetian red over here and let that just lightly blend in with the white. I'm going to pull that down around his mouth. We're just tinting that color. Down, down. Gibson, down. You are really not listening, huh, sir? We need a training session. I know, I heard your big sigh. You like training though, sort of, depending on what we're training. I guess being forced to lay down and come when called over and over again gets a little boring. But that's like the best thing to work with him when he starts getting all, I'm in charge, I'm the boss, I don't have to do what mom says. Let's see, this needs to be out here. Let's see, that's going to be darker, comes out, that comes out a bit more. And we've got a few little whiskers. Now these whiskers, I don't want them to be super white. Actually, I don't even want them that light. I'm going to use my brown ochre. We're just going to get a few out there in the distance. We're not going to do the ones over here until we get more filled in. And then that, let's see, we're pulling them, not pushing super hard here. Pink color comes there. We're going to have around his ear. Let's define that a bit more. This is that Venetian red. Okay. Now, there was a color I pulled out. Oh, it wasn't. I put it back. I want you back. Come back. The one that kept getting in my hand that I was like, no, I don't need you. I need you now. I was wrong. You were right. Burnt ochre. Wait. Yeah, burnt ochre. Let's sharpen you. I need him just a little bit, that yellowy burnt ochre browny color right around the transition between the brown and the white. I'm going to pull a little bit of that in there. A little bit here. Just kind of tinting that color. Got my ivory. Let's get a highlight here. This I've switched to white where I want it to be much brighter. Pushing a bit harder where I want it to be really light. I'm going to switch over to my ivory for some of this. Now this fur gets a little bit longer. It's kind of soft though, so it'll overlap quite a bit. So that's a good question. Boot said, does anyone know why she uses different brands of colored pencil? Is it more a matter of choice or does each have a different effect? So that's really good. In this case right now, like I have this same ivory color in every brand, but I want a finer point. See, being an oil-based pencil, and it's even finer than, oh, it's really sharp. I just poked myself. It's like a needle. For teeny tiny detail, I'm gonna go with my polychromos. However, if I want something to be more opaque, I want a pencil that has a higher wax content, so I'm gonna switch over to my Derwent Lightfast or my Caran d'Ache Luminance. Those are kind of my go-to pencils. Polychromos, Derwent Lightfast, Caran d'Ache Luminance. Those are my three main brands. So there are other good brands, but those are like my go-tos. So sometimes it is simply color. There's just, you know, like Derwent Lightfast. They have purple, and it is the best color in the history of all the colors. I haven't even used it yet. I need to, because I can't do anything without purple. But it really depends. There's several factors that will play a role in why I choose one over another. If I want super smooth blending, let's say I've got the same exact color in all three types of pencils, but I want to blend a super smooth, like let's say clouds. I want something that's going to be more opaque and that's going to blend really smooth with odorless mineral spirits. So in that case, I'm going to go with either Derwent Lightfast is first choice, Derwent Drawing is my next choice, and Caran d'Ache Luminance is my next in that line, and then Polychromos would be last because those ones are more translucent. They're good for fine details because it's a harder lead, but they're not necessarily as good for blending, smooth blending. Can it be done? Absolutely. It just takes a little bit more work. I have to do more layers in that case. That white. Let's start getting up here into this ear. So notice you've got a row. So we've got this right around here. We'll go ahead and pull that. Kind of comes in, and he's got this little fold here. God, they have cute ears. I would definitely want ferrets if they didn't smell like ferrets. And before you give me all the ways you can make them not smell like ferrets, they still smell like ferrets. You can lessen it, but of everyone I've ever known that was like, no, do this. Yeah, I can still smell them. I can smell your house from here. I still smell them. They're adorable, and I friggin' love them, and I love visiting with them, but I'm too weird about smells in the house, and I could not, like, it's just not a fit for me. I think my nose is too sensitive. It's actually kind of annoying. But I love them. They have the coolest personalities. They're so playful and adorable. And seriously, probably one of the cutest animals in the world. So I understand why people are cool with the smell, if you're not a crazy person like I am. I get it. When I first started dating Matt, his dad had two. And they had like one specific room just for the ferrets. That smell never went away, by the way. Like it forever until the day they sold the house. Like after the ferrets passed, years and years later, the house still smelled like that. You could smell the musky smell in that room. He had two girls. They were his babies. They were adorable. One of them, oh my gosh, you could not wear socks around her. She would attack your feet if you were wearing socks. Barefoot, no problem. Normal shoes, no problem. Socks, oh God, no. Your toes were getting bit. And if she managed to get the sock off, she was taking it. I had another friend who had a male, and he was neutered and de-scented. I don't even know. I don't remember what all they do. Oh, her room smelled like, that was like 30 years ago, and I can still smell it. Talk about scent that lingers. This looks overexposed on the camera. It's not that bold and white. I'll have to show you in the other camera. Look at your reference photo and just copy your value, like really look at the values. Where is it light? Where is it dark? Because that is really overexposing for some reason. That whole ear looks a little bit bizarre. Now let's start pulling. I've got some black. I'm going to pull some of these guys in. Some of these are going to stick out a little bit further. We've got some definition on the inner side of the ear. It's funny, I complain about the smell of ferrets, yet I'm the person who's obsessed with the smell of oil paint and think it's the best smell in the history of the world. So, you know, I don't know if you want to take anything I say too seriously. Some little light areas, some details in the ear. We'll just give a hint there. Yeah, that is weirdly washed out. So again, I apologize. The camera, yeah, that camera's still working. The funny thing is on mine, part of it's not even white enough yet. I need to switch over to a, right along the edge. I want to lighten mine a bit more with an, I'm using the Derwent Light Fast so that it's more opaque. Just a little. I need to break this up because see how this looks like one big part of the mouth? It actually breaks up right there. And I need to pull this brown down. I can probably darken that a little bit now on the camera. Let me see. Jason said, Lisa thought, I thought that concept was a given, not to take what you say seriously. Yeah, yeah. That's probably a bit more accurate. A little bit, kind of. We'll go with it. It's better than the other one was. Okay. I'm going to pull some more of the Venetian red. Pushing a little bit harder here where I really want that to stand out. Let's pull some of the dark. Actually, this needs to come up a lot further here. Break that up. Actually, that works. I'm going to use that peach color just a little bit in here. And I'm going to switch back to Venetian red for right around his little whisker holes. Okay. Actually, let's go with the burnt ochre. Or, I'm sorry. No, yeah, brown ochre. Now these guys are, I want them to look really soft, so I've got to make sure I'm overlapping a lot of these. Don't just do individual lines like that. That's not going, it doesn't look soft. get them to kind of clump and cluster together. We've got a slightly darker area here, so I won't put it as dense in there. I'm going to come back through with, oops, ooh, I caught that in between my legs. I'm going to use the white. That did not make my back happy moving that fast though. Yes, I am doing a critique next week. I will be announcing over on Patreon where you can go ahead and send those in. So make sure you've got your finished artwork ready, get good photos with them. Wow, I really angered my back when I caught that pencil. That is getting worse. That's what you're here for. Listen to me whine. I know. Got the burnt ochre. So we get this kind of tan color, start fading that into the darker areas. The color really works well. So polychromos, they are more opaque. They actually stand out really well against the Inktense and MeWe, and that's because the Inktense and MeWe is a little bit more tooth, so more of the pencil sticks to the paper. If you're working on like hot press watercolor paper, which is where I work when I want something to be more like a photo, less sketchy look, then it's going to take a lot more layers for me to really get the polychromos to stand out well. Let's use the ivory here. No, this gets cut off by the mat. Right now this is super sketchy. I'm just kind of mapping out where I want the light and the dark. And watch how these are all slightly curved, but which direction they curve. Like a lot of these kind of start curving down. These ones, not so much that direction. I'll switch over to browns as I move my way out. Let that just fade into the black. Just give that hint that again gets cut by the mat. You know, Teresa was talking to somebody about the wind is awful. Teresa lives really near me. We had a dust storm out here in Texas, West Texas. Keep your dirt to yourself. It blew all into North Texas, and everything is covered in dirt. I made the mistake of bothering to wash the patio again this weekend, and it blew in again last night. I have never seen anything quite like that. I've lived here since 2008. I have never seen dust storms in this area like that. Well, I guess I lived in Grapevine for a few years, so maybe, no, it would have still hit us in Grapevine. I don't know. It was bad. It is a mess, which is really annoying because I've spent so much time the last couple of weeks working on the backyard, and I just want to go be able to sit out on my patio chairs, and you cannot because it is dust bowl out there. Like, it makes you really wonder how people lived through the actual real dust bowl, because I can't handle a little bit of dust. I'm just giving the hint. See, as I move out, I'm not putting as much detail, just getting the hint of some fur. So he's just coming out of the shadows there. I'm going to pull some Castle Earth. And again, with those rows I was talking about. So the rows, like here with the Castle Earth, it'll cross into the light areas, but it'll be a bit more dense in that row. Okay, now everything's mostly in. This is where we get to start really focusing on smaller detail because we have plenty of time. I'm going to take a little bit of black and mix that in a few spots. Let's see, we've got Venetian red around that nose, especially the nostril here. Push a little bit harder to get that to show up. This whole area can be a decent amount lighter. switch over to a more opaque white. I'm going to use that more opaque. Actually, I'm going to switch over to Derwent Drawing. Do I have one of those over here? Yes. Oh, I'm even going to get a new one out after I remove the sticker. What is a good colored pencil to use on watercolor hot press? All of them. I use all of these pencils on the hot press watercolor paper. It just usually for my background, my base layers where I want it to be really smooth or I need something more opaque, I'm going to still, I mean, same thing I was saying before, I'm going to go with something that has a higher wax content. So my Derwent Lightfast, my Derwent Drawing, or my Caran d'Ache Luminance. When I want the smoother blending, or not smoother blending, the finer detail, I like my Polychromos the best. But sometimes, even if I want smooth blending, Polychromos has the color I want, so I'll go with Polychromos anyway. Like I said, it's not something where only one pencil can perform one main task. It's just that sometimes one pencil makes it easier to perform that task. They can all do it, the work, but I have to put more effort into the layering with Polychromos to get the smooth blending. Or if I want fine detail, I have to put more work into continuously sharpening those pencils, way more with Caran d'Ache Luminance or Derwent Lightfast. So it's not that they can't be kind of all work on the same paper. It's just you have to adjust your technique depending on the specific situation. I want this to be a little bit brighter and a little bit softer in here, so I'm going to use my Derwent Drawing. So it's a higher wax content. I'm just kind of doing some little circles, filling that in so it's more solid, not as many little furs or fur marks. And that's going to make the fur look a lot more dense. If you leave too many individual lines, you get the more scraggly look. So now is where I want to thicken some of that up. I also want to warm up the color a little bit. So let's take some, let's see if this will do it for me. A little bit. This is the brown ochre. Yeah, kinda. I want even more warmth to it though. Let's use the, what was this, burnt sienna? Burnt ochre. Burnt something. There we go. And just kind of warms it up a little bit more. Where was Castle Earth? There we go. Gonna break up that line so it's not so even. Same thing, I want to warm it up a little bit, so I'm going to take the, what did I say this was? I can never remember. Burnt ochre. I'm going to pull that in just a bit in a couple spots. Let's grab that Castle Earth. Oh, this will help too. I wanted some of that purple in. So the purple is just going to make it look like the color is just a bit more rich over some of these dark areas. I'm going to pull that into a lot of these areas that have the brown. It's not that I'm trying to make it look straight purple, but it just gives a lot more depth. Let's see. I'm looking through here, like this needs to be a lot darker through here. I've got that dark. Actually, this comes up here further. More dark here. But then we've got this lighter area. Let's sharpen this pencil again. What's the difference between hot press and cold press watercolor paper? Hot press is super smooth. Cold press is going to give you that really rough, grainy, gritty look. So for colored pencil, I do not like cold press at all. Oh, we have Maria said, for the pups from Bella and Lasagna. Oh my God, did you name a dog Lasagna? That is the cutest name. I love it. Thank you so much. Do you boys want a super chat? And that's going to be a yes. Back up, back up, back up. Those are kind of the same. One for you, one for you. Thank you so much, Maria. Nom. His ears, I love Wade's ears. You can't see it. There's one of his ears. They're so soft. Yes, lasagna. Oh my gosh, that is such a cute name. I like food names. All our birds are food names. Lay down. Down. Gibson, down. Gibson is determined not to lay down after each time, and he knows what he's supposed to do. Lay down, sir. Oh, we're going to stretch first. Yeah, this purple, I don't know how much it shows in the photo, but it just brings so much more richness to these colors. What am I looking for? Yes, this will work. See, like this is the brown ochre, 10%, that is the Caran d'Ache luminance. I have to sharpen it constantly because it's such a soft lead, it doesn't really hold its point real well. Whereas polychromos, I can get a lot more pencil strokes for my sharpening efforts. Let's go ahead and pull some of these whiskers in now. So most of these are going to be dark. So I'm going to use my polychromos. I'm going to sharpen that pencil. I'm not pushing hard. I want to keep this kind of light hand. Okay, now I have to work. The problem with putting the whiskers in too soon is you have to work in between them, but it was also like, I just wanted to see the whiskers in. They make everything look so much better. I'm going to soften some of this, just keep layering. Using that white polychromos. So this is blending it really well, going over the wax-based pencils, so it gives me a nice soft look. So I want to get some of those whites in more. Why is the microphone poking me so hard? Sorry if it keeps making noise when I have to mess with it. I don't know why it's being so pokey tonight. Again, Derwent drawing, so this is going to be a thicker lead, which probably looks super thick on that camera. It's more just kind of filling in solid, and it's also going to be very, very opaque. This one is very waxy. Soften that pink. I'm just going really light over that Venetian red. Just soften it up a bit. Ow, elbow. I love the shelf tray thing I have under my easel. Like it's a part of the easel, but I hit my elbow on it all the time. Oh, do I have a... So I'm pushing a bit harder, really gives me that more blended look here. Okay, and if we want to get a slightly warmer look, I'm just going to take that, what did I say that was? Burnt sienna? Burnt ochre. I'm never getting that right. I'm just lightly going over it. This is essentially glazing. I'm just tinting the color. And it just warms that up a bit. This actually can be a lot lighter in here. And then we can pull a little bit more in here too. That is with the brown ochre 10%. Let's lighten that up a little bit with my polychromos. And back to just slightly warming that up, just kind of going over everything. I want to pull more white in here too. Break that line up a little bit. Okay, I think that guy is about done. And then before I sign it, I need to make sure I know where that mat hits. Otherwise, I'll probably sign too high, too low, too somewhere it's not supposed to be. Okay. Let's move this. Where can I move you? And I'm going to use, we'll use the brown ochre. There we go. When SGWW gave a super chat to say, and said, to make up for the West Texas wind. That's right. You had, yeah, some of it came from El Paso, so this is your fault too. Do something with your dirt. But, you know, I will take the super chat. So thank you so much. Do you boys want a super chat? Thank you so much. Yeah, I did read some of it came from El Paso. Okay, and let me show you what this guy looks like over on this camera. There we go. So you can see he's much softer than what you're getting. That camera just makes it look, instead of a nice thin line, it almost looks like spaghetti noodles. Like it's just super thick, and it's not. It's definitely a much softer look. So there is our finished ferret. If you drew this along with me, or if you drew anything, please tag me on it, social media, Instagram, wherever. I would love to see what yours comes out like. Okay, down. Down. Let's go ahead and answer your questions. You lay down. Oh, Gibson's got the chatter teethers. Down. Chatter teethers doesn't mean you don't have to listen, sir. I don't care how cute it is. Greyhounds, when they get super excited, their whole jaw just chatters. It's like they're cold, except it's an excitement thing, or like when they're super happy, like a cat purring. That is, and Gibson gets like the biggest chatter teethers. So cute. Okay. And let's go for our questions. Okay, let's see how long my back lasts tonight. Whoops, stop. Why? I don't want to send Nick pictures. Stop it. Marie said, how do you use pen pastels without filling the tooth of the paper? I try to go light but still struggle. How do you not overload the applicator? It's not so much overloading the applicator. It's not applying, reload, apply, reload, apply, reload, apply, like you don't just keep going back and forth. It really just takes one, maybe two layers. Like it doesn't take reapplying and adding more over and over and over again. I think that that's usually the problem people run into when they just fill too much. They just keep adding more and more and another scoop and another scoop. It's just not that much. I mean, to give you an idea, you saw my palette. I've been using this for since I want to say I got that set in maybe 2017, right around there. I have not replaced a single one yet. Like that is my original set of 20. My white, I do need to replace kind of soon, but honestly, if I didn't replace it, there's still enough in there. It just kind of burnt out in the middle. There's probably still enough to get me through another couple of years. Like you don't need a lot. And as long as you're not just scoop, apply, scoop, you know, just go ahead and mix the color you need. You can tap it on something if it feels too heavy. Like if you go like this with your soft tool, like just a quick, if much is coming like off, if it's falling off when you do that, that was too much. Like you can do that just to make sure there's not too much. So that would be one method. But it's, like I said, more an issue of just continuously scoop, add more, scoop, add more, scoop, add more. If you do add a lot, put a few coats, you know, a couple light layers of Spectra Fix, let it dry, and then add more. But that's going to help you not to cake it on too heavily. Just you saw, and this one was kind of more extreme. If you back up, there really wasn't a lot of pencil or a lot of pan pastel on this piece as my base layers. Remember, it's just your base layer. Don't try, I think that's the other thing. You're not really, if you're working the way I am anyway, I'm not trying to get all the detail. I'm not trying to make everything perfect. I'm trying to get a base layer so I save time when I go on top with colored pencil. Colored pencil is where all the magic really happens. The pan pastels are just saving me time getting that simple base layer. And I suspect one of the problems that people often have is that they're trying to perfect it. They're trying to make it look so good on those base layers, and that's why they're getting so many layers. Like they keep just adding more and more and more. You just need to get a color, just a few layers in, you know, 1-2 layers, just so that there's color on the paper that your colored pencil now can work over. So I hope that helps. Let's see. Stephanie, it's a good question. Stephanie said, I'm struggling with skin tones in acrylics. How do you create nice skin tones without looking blotchy in shadow and highlighted areas? I don't like, honestly, I just don't like portraits in acrylics myself because it's not how I enjoy working. I mean, I do underpaintings with them, but I don't know if I'm the best person to ask because I don't enjoy doing portraits in acrylic. I know I've said I've got to do a lesson for you guys with them, but the problem with acrylics, the blend time is an issue. So your best bet, get yourself a fine mist sprayer, but with water, not Spectra Fix, and you can lightly mist it to keep it wet so you've got time to blend. And do it in glazes. So, but keep in mind with your glazes, these are pure color. Don't mix white with your glaze. That's how you're gonna get like a foggy, chalky look. Or if you're mixing a lot of black in with it, again, you're graying things up. You're not getting that nice pure color. One of the things I recommend is study, don't just look at your reference photo, go study some the masters of portraiture, and you'll be surprised at just how much reds and orange, burnt sienna, raw sienna, these bold colors, blues, purples, greens, the amount of color that is used in a portrait. But if you're doing it as glazes, like light glaze, thin it down with a decent amount of water, that's going to give you that softer look because each glaze, it kind of softens the previous blotchy brush strokes. But don't mix a bunch of white. Like your base layers, yeah, you're going to be mixing white. And what I like to do with a portrait, and again, I need to do a lesson very, very soon in acrylics for portraits. It's just not my favorite way to work because oils are so much easier for portraits. So much easier. But anyway, I should stop whining and just give you the information, right? So if you're going to be using the whites on those base layers to kind of build up your lights and your darks, but then you start glazing on top of that and you're not using whites. You'll come back through with whites for your brightest highlights on the cheek, the nose, nose right there, the nose, the chin, you know, those brighter shine marks. Like if I look at myself right now, like right there it is, that I would put white on. Here would get a bit of white, like just a few bits would have actual, like your last brush strokes of white. But most of that, when you're doing like a well-lit portrait, and I don't mean something you took with a snapshot on your cell phone because you probably didn't have the best lighting in those situations, maybe, depending on how good you are. But look at some of the masters, their portraiture. Do I have one in here? No, wait, I do. Hold on. Let me see if I have this book. Did I leave them in here? I think I did. Ooh, they're in here. Is the book I want in here though? Actually, let's pull this up. This isn't the one I'm thinking of, but it will work. Here's the other one. There's two books over here I want to show you. So I have Portrait Painting by, who is this? The Old Master Techniques and Contemporary Applications by Susan Brooker. So this book here is wonderful. I strongly recommend it. But what is interesting to me, the thing that I found most useful in this book, let's pull this guy up. Look at the colors. Look at the oranges, the blues, the greens. I mean, there are so many colors. We look at it, something like this, and have a tendency to see, we think like the flesh pencil, flesh, you know, peach and white and brown and black for shadows. You're not going to use much black. Actually, this artist, I doubt this artist used black. They probably mix their own with blue and like raw umber. But there's a few others in here that are such good examples. The color, and this isn't a book where you're like, I'm going to become a master at portraits because this book. I really liked the colors that were used and how they talked about building these up. There's a specific photo that I'm looking for. Is it the one on the cover? No, not hers. I just really, in this book, and there's different styles, but I like the examples that they use. Hold on. But usually this is a great one. Look at the colors in her face. Look how dark that is. We have a tendency to, when we draw portraits. I mean, even if you look her up next to me, I'm over like exposed. Like this would not be good portrait lighting, and I'm ridiculously pale. You wouldn't know I saw the sun this weekend. But I mean, the colors in here, that is deep. That is dark, like burnt sienna, red iron oxide I would be using a lot of. You've got greens and blues in here for these shadows, not black. You again in here, the contrast between those lights and darks. But the colors you're not jumping to white. You're not mixing white into a bunch of those colors. As soon as you start mixing white, you're now opaque and you cover the previous layers. Look up on Instagram, I see them a lot. Watercolor artists, the way that they layer, like a good portrait artist in watercolor. Watch, it starts with a J. What is his name? I don't know if I can find it easily, but watch the way that watercolor artists layer, because that's all glazing. A good watercolor artist is not typically using much in the way of white. The way that they glaze the reds and the oranges and the blues, it really helps you to kind of understand how you can apply that to acrylics as well. And theirs is more extreme. I think that's why it's helpful to see the way that they're glazing that in these just rich, rich colors. Now the trick is, well, with watercolor, that's a way bigger challenge because you've got to leave the white of the paper showing through. You go too dark and you're going to have some challenges, but they're super, super helpful. Let me see if I can't find it super quick. I won't bother, but let's see. Oops. Come on, phone. There we go. Watercolor portrait. Let's see if it comes up. If it automatically suggests somebody that I would follow. Oh, here we go. It's him. Oh, no, that's not. That's just somebody sharing his work or her work. J.Hunsung. Look up him. It's a longer thing. J. Okay, his Instagram handle. I don't know if you can, no, that's not going to be in clear. J.Hunsung. He's amazing, amazing, amazing. But if you watch some of his videos, the way, and again, it's watercolor, and I know you're talking about acrylics, but watch the way that he glazes these rich colors to make it look realistic. He's not mixing white in those. And I think that that's important to understand when you're glazing and you're trying to get that look with acrylics or any medium really. Don't be mixing a ton of white with each of those layers because that's where you're getting that chalky, kind of muted, weird color. And that's not to say that you never will. Just don't depend on that. That's what I normally see people do when they're doing acrylic or even oil portraits. They keep mixing white or black. No, do not mix black in with your portrait. Unless it's a portrait where the person is coming out of deep, deep shadows where the black fades into the skin, maybe then you'll use black. Even somebody who has really, really like the darkest pigment that the world produces for people, like super, super dark, you're still not going to be mixing, black's not your normal go-to shadow color. You're going to be mixing reds and greens and blues, browns, but don't jump to black because you just grade everything, like, and especially if there's any white mix in, you really grade it up. But now there are exceptions because sometimes you have a portrait that like the person, like the ferret coming out of the shadows, then it'll be a bit different. This is another really good one. This is Colored Pencil Painting Portraits by Aliona Nicholson. I love this book. But you've got a lot of, again, colored pencil, but you've got so many examples of the way that we're building up these. I'm trying to see if I can find a good page here. talking about just the colors that are used in these skin tones. I mean, even like she's got some with like stuff from the old masters and then skin, like tones that are used to get these tones. I mean, look how bright these are to get some of these. So really, really good book. It talks about a lot of the colors for realistic portraits and stuff. So again, colored pencil, I know that's not what you're looking for, but understanding the colors to use. And you often hear me talk about, oh, color's not a big deal. It's a little bit more of a big deal when you get into portraits, because with portraits, if you start pulling, you're mixing white into things that shouldn't have white mixed in with it, the skin starts looking weird and chalky and not quite right. So try to go with that pure pigment. You know, get your highlights will be brushed on later. Oh my gosh, what is poking me? Your highlights will be, seriously, this is the night that I whine about everything. I blame my back or my poor attitude. We could go either way on that. But with the portraits, it's going to be the same. Just stop, don't keep mixing white with everything. The white, because it is so opaque, you're really seeing more, like the brush strokes just don't look as nice either. But again, going back to, for blending, to keep it wet so you have time to blend the way you want, get a fine mist sprayer so you can kind of mist it and keep that glaze going. But I think that will help. Snow, yes, thank you. She wrote out the actual username. Okay, I lost my phone. Seriously, this is hurting. What is poking me? I'm turning this around. Oh, I see what happened. We're gonna go backwards. I apologize if this is making horrible noises. I can't see what I'm doing. Ooh, I can see. You are gonna go this way, which is still kind of pokey, but not as bad. That should feel much better. Like this sharp plastic piece was just like jamming into me. Okay. I really need to do that acrylic portrait lesson. Okay. I keep saying I'm going to, and I just haven't. Marie said, on the glassine, you keep it clean with water. I've just been wiping it down with like an old rag. You could use water, but I'm just using a rag. I think I take it back. I may have used water a couple of times to get the color off. Let's see. I love this tip. I've been using a loose piece, but it gets dirty quickly, probably because my pan pastel is too heavy. Is that normal? Mine gets dirty too. Let me show you. I mean, it has color. I have watercolor stains or Inktense or something all over it. But like here, you can kind of see where it's dirty, but not much comes off of it. This paper towel is actually dirty. But I just kind of wipe it like that. I mean, a little came off, but not enough that if it got on the artwork, it's not going to make a noticeable thing. Okay, I take it back. Let's say I was working on something where I wanted to leave the white round, the background completely white. I might put a fresh piece in that case because this might show up. Some of the smudging, the dirty spots, like here. That might show up over white paper, but I almost never, ever work on white paper because it's too much of a pain to keep clean. So I'm not going to worry about it then. But then I probably would put a fresh piece. Let's see. Haley said, when using pan pastel, should I start with dark colors first or light colors first if I only have one applicator? I would start light. It's always easier to darken things usually than to lighten them up. But between colors, first off, you should have more than one applicator. That's, I guess, the elephant in the room. You're going to need some more applicators. At least have one for lights, one for darks. You could flip these over, but then you're flipping it every time you switch. Save up and get yourself a couple more applicators. They're not that expensive. I know, as somebody who's broke right now, I get it, but also if you're doing this regularly, you are making your life so much more difficult than it needs to be. Have at least two. Get the 4-pack, but yeah, you can wipe it on a paper towel to lessen it, but I would probably, if I was only doing one, I would probably start with my light colors and then build up to my dark, just because usually it's easier to darken things. But if you've got too much white and you're trying to make one area you want super dark, you got gray now, so there's that. Marie said, it really helps when you say how light or how hard you're pressing. Thank you. Oh, good to know. Although it's so subjective because I've worked with students in person where I was like, okay, use a light hand for this. And I went over and they were so light-handed, you couldn't even see, like no color was coming off of that pencil. They had control, but no color was coming off. So, it's a little subjective. Some people take it a little more literal than I intend. Art of Raven D said, a lot of flesh pencils seem to be more like sunburn. Yeah. Peter Z said, hi, did you draw the base with pastel? Yeah, I filled in the base with pan pastels. But the drawing, like the outline, was with tracing and transfer paper. So I drew it on tracing paper and then used white transfer paper to transfer the line cleanly onto the artwork. I don't like drawing ever directly on the paper because when you start erasing, you get smudge marks all over. I want all erasing to happen on the tracing paper on another piece of paper, not on the artwork itself, because that can kind of damage things. Haley said, what is your favorite medium to create with? Acrylics are usually my go-to, like those. I feel like I can do pretty much anything. As much as I talk about I don't like doing portraits with acrylics, I technically can, but they're just a faster medium. They're more forgiving in a lot of ways. They're probably my top favorite. But I wouldn't at the same time want to only ever do things in acrylics because I would get bored. Like I like to work in lots of mediums. It makes me happier. So you don't get burnt out. Also, if you are not, I don't know, let me show you the lesson that we just had over on Patreon. It is available right now. For as little as $6 a month, you get access to all of my longer lessons, including this charcoal lesson of a sea turtle. How cute is this guy? So there are over 400 lessons you instantly get access to in multiple mediums. These are your longer lessons where we're going more in detail. When we do the live streams, you know, I've only got an hour and a half to get something done. With these, I can spend 2 weeks and just show you all the detail to get things to look super realistic. Although this one was actually a quickie project because charcoal's super fast to work in. But we talk about, you know, getting the water to look like water and the shine and all that stuff. So that lesson is available now. Again, patreon.com/Lachri, and you get over 400 lessons instantly when you sign up. New ones all the time. And I take requests sometimes. Okay. And that is how I am able to do the free lessons for everybody. So, you know, you're supporting other artists too that maybe can't sign up for lessons. It keeps me able to do the live streams every Wednesday night. So it funds everything. Okay. Therapy Art for You said, e-meet webcams are pretty good for multiple can be used. Interesting. I've not heard of those. Haley said, what are you giving the pups for Super Chats? They are getting, oh good, no one heard that. They're getting sweet potatoes, chopped up sweet potatoes. Good for their teeth because they're super crunchy. Their sweet potatoes are anti-inflammatory, so that's also an added bonus. And they absolutely love them. Patty said, our dog is a sable German Shepherd with a very dark face, mostly black with some dark brown. How do you approach coloring her? I know you need a value scale somehow. I mean, yeah, I would have to see the photo, but in most cases, when you talk about, let's see, German Shepherd with a very dark face, mostly black with some dark brown. So black, whenever you're talking about animals that have a lot of black, a lot of brown, you are not normally just going with black and brown because you would think, okay, all the highlights are going to be with white. Well, white highlights on black is just going to look like you just aged the dog by, 5 years. So instead, you're going to be using blues, like lighter blues and purples for the highlights, both for the brown and the black. That would probably be what I would go with. And you want to make sure you get a good photo. So if you are a pet portrait artist, always a good idea to have a thing on your website showing your clients how to take good photos, the angles that you like to work with. Some people like working where you're looking down at the dog. I've seen some awesome portraits that way. I don't like to. I typically want to have about a 3/4 side, face to where it's like, yay. And I want interesting high contrast lighting. I want the sun coming from one side strong, not directly above. I'm looking for something very specific in order to get, if the client sees my previous work and really likes that and they want their portrait to look that way, I need them to provide a certain type of reference photo, a certain angle, certain lighting, all of that. And so you want to have something on your webpage that explains that and shows them photos of how to get the photo at the angle that you like to work with for your style, how you want the lighting. Show them examples of what you don't want. And it's easier. I mean, don't go looking for photos where somebody else took a bad photo or provided a bad one. Go take the photo yourself of the dog across the room or across the yard and the lighting's terrible. Like, show them examples of what will not work and examples of what type of photo you need them to provide. It's easier now because people can take photos with a cell phone, and the cell phone quality has gotten so good. It's much easier to get photos from clients, I find, now than it was 10, 15 years ago. But you need to have something that teaches them exactly what you're looking for. But even given that, even the best lighting, usually when, going back to the dog with the face, the darker face, the blacks and the browns, I'm still gonna add purples and blues that are not in that reference photo, because the whites will it just looks older. If you've got an animal with, go to Lachri.com under my gallery. Let me make sure it's still there. You'll see what I'm talking about. Lachri.com, click gallery, wait 200 minutes because it's slow, because there's stuff wrong with my website I don't know how to fix. If you look at any of the, heck, even the giraffe that's up top, look at the blues. That's a cream color, and it's blue because the reflection of the sky and such, and then I hype that up. He still looks realistic, even though I've got blue where it's supposed to be white. So I'm going to pull extra colors out, but what I want to look for is an animal in black. You've got the owl. There's is that a spectacled owl? I forget what that owl is, but there's an owl with kind of a green foresty background. He's white. He's got white and he's got the brown feathers, but you can see a lot of that lighter blue in the brown feathers. Scrolling down further, there's a black leopard. That's what I'm looking for. The black leopard, he has purples and blues. Look how many colors are in him. So he's black. I've got red oxide. I've got blue. I've got ultramarine blue. I've got purple. I've got magenta. There are so many colors you want to use when you get into the blacks and the dark colors. More so even than a lighter animal. There's a portrait of Gibson when he was younger. Even him, look at there's a lot of purples and reds. He's a solid black dog, but look at the colors that I used on his face. I've got the kind of cream tone, I don't know what you want to call that. I've got blues, I've got purples, I've got red oxide. I've got a lot more, there's not a lot of black in him, even though he is a black dog. Look at, that's probably the best example. Look at the colors, look at the lighting, make sure when you take the photo, so kind of going back to making sure you've got the right photo, and this is something that you should teach your client, have a thing on your website teaching your clients, like make a blog post showing them how to do that. But look at how many colors are actually used on a solid black dog. Very little black. It's more of these other colors, but you've got to have the right lighting. In my case, I have south-facing windows, and I waited until the sun was low enough that it was coming at an angle that I got that really interesting lighting with the bright highlights. And then I even take it into Lightroom and hype that up even more than what the reference photo was. So I make the highlights brighter. So, mess with the scale, the shadow, and all those things there. But that will help a lot. That's what I do to get more real. And it's funny because it's like, well, the reference photo doesn't have blue and purple. It doesn't matter. It will look more realistic if you do that instead of just using white highlights. You use white highlights, the dog looks gray. So, I mean, it's not that you're not mixing some white in there, but, things to keep in mind when drawing black animals. Let's see. Haley said, what is the difference between, okay, we answered that one earlier. Marie said, when doing lights and darks, how do you avoid the zebra or comb look? I feel like I'm burying my lines and clumping, but I'm straggling. So there has to be a fade. You want do I have much that's really good here? You don't want a harsh line. You're not making a tiger, and even a tiger's got, you've got a fade there. So if we come back, let's just use this guy. Let's pull him over here because the color's better. Let's see if I can actually show him. So we've got the row. Now you can't really see on that camera. It's not showing you enough detail. Let me see. Nope. Too harsh. I apologize, but yeah, way too harsh. That camera. But anyway, see how the row fades. So I've got the darkest area. Let me grab a pencil to point at so I'm not smudging it. We've got this darkest area here, and it fades into, we've got the brownish tones, we've got some purple in there, then we get into the creams, and then the light in the center. But they're all overlapping each other. They're not just straight like dark, brown, red, but whatever. They have to, this is happening. You don't do this. You don't, well, my lines would be like that. You don't want like a straight harsh line. You want overlapping where they're, crossing over that way. So you've got a more dense area with each color in the center of those sort of rows, but they have to blend this way, not this way, not a harsh line between the two. I hope that helps. I don't know if I'm explaining that one well. I'll talk about that. I'll try to keep in mind that as I continue doing lessons with fur to make sure I talk more about that because it's easier when I'm doing it to show. Teresa said, "Have you used the water-soluble graphite? I bought some, but I haven't learned to use yet." Yes, I have lots of lessons over on Patreon with the water-soluble graphite. I love that stuff. That is one of those mediums, every single time I use it, I just find myself with the stupidest grin on my face because I'm having so much fun. I love, love, love the look you get with water-soluble graphite. Look at, well, we're already on my website. If you're over there, there's a raven. That was one of my first ones. I did a raven. There's a little bit of blue in the flowers. He's in water-soluble graphite with the damask background. That was my first attempt. But is the tiger not on here? I need to put him on here. Oh, he's not. That I need to update. My website is missing so much good stuff. Like some of my favorite stuff. There's a tiger that I did with water-soluble graphite, and it's one of my favorites. There's a seashell I did too, another lesson with a seashell. That one's another like super striking. Just those darks with water-soluble graphite get so dark. It is so satisfying to work in. So yeah, that stuff is fun. Yeah, another bonus too, if you sign up over on Patreon, you get access. There's more than just the videos. You also get access to our daily sketchbook prompts. So if you're struggling and you're like, I know I should sketch, I know I should draw, but I can't think of anything, just sketch out. Even if it's just a 10 minutes of work, but sketch what those prompts are. There's one for every day of the week. Just pick, you can pick any of them. You don't even have to do it in the right day. I don't care. If you get access to our Patreon Discord server. So you can share current work that you're doing, ask other artists what they think, ask for tips. It's just a fun place you can chat about. We've got a thing for books if you've got recommendations, want to chat about your plants, your animals. Like we've got some different channels there. So it's just a fun community. It's a fairly small one. On the Discord group doesn't have that many people, so you don't feel like you're getting lost in the crowd. That's a really fun server. So you get access to that too. Oh, I didn't answer you? What didn't I answer? Haley, what are the difference between hot and cold press watercolor paper? Did I not answer that one? Hot press is super, super smooth. Yeah, I answered that earlier. I answered it when I saw it pop up. Hot press is super smooth. Cold press is all bumpy and rough. Cold press, I do not like for colored pencil at all. Let's see. Teresa said, I had high resolution photos taken of my artwork to make prints. The pictures from digital camera looks great, even on my phone, but when I look at it on my computer, not so good. Why is that? I would have to see it to look for sure. Different monitors can just do different things with it, make things stand out more. I know I've taken photos and it looked good on one and didn't look good on my phone. The color was completely off, or different things would be off. It was like making the darks too dark, or it was making the lights making too much contrast. Different monitors are going to do different things to it. I would have to kind of see to know. But you said the pictures from the digital camera looks great, even on my phone. But when I look at it on my computer, where else are you looking at it? Like on the camera, of course it looks good. Everything looks good on a little screen. On the phone, still a little screen. On the computer, you're much bigger. Now, here's the other thing that often happens. There's so many reasons that it may not be looking good, but or as good, I should say. You do something that's a 5x7. You get a photo. When you look at the photo on your phone, even my phone is big. I mean, it's a bigger one. Or if you look at it on your phone or the computer, the camera viewfinder, I knew there was a word for that in there somewhere. You look at it on that, your 5x7, you're shrinking down. It's all artwork looks better when shrunk down. When you put it on your computer monitor, that 5x7 got stretched out. It will always, always, always look worse when you stretch it larger than what the original was. And this is something people will argue with me on this one, and I'm sorry, they're just wrong. They're cute, but they're wrong. It doesn't matter how many megapixels your camera is. It doesn't matter how good the camera lens is. There is only so much information in the artwork that you did. If you did it as a 5x7, you only put, let's say, 5 pencil strokes going this way. When you make that larger, you're not adding, it's still 5 pencil strokes. The gap in between those 5 pencil strokes on a small scale were perfect. But when you start stretching it out, that gap is bigger and bigger. I don't care how good the lens is. I don't care how good how many megapixels, how many, whatever. You're stretching it out in a way that the original is not intended to be seen as. So when you stretch that out, again, doesn't matter if it's the resolution's so perfect. When you take something smaller and make it bigger, which if you are like me, I have my computer monitors I've got a huge one in the office. When I take a photo of my 5x7 and I look at it on that screen, it is always, always, always going to look worse, no matter what. When you look at it on a phone, we're now on a small screen, so I'm taking that 5x7 and making it smaller to fit on the screen, looks better every time. Take a 30x40-inch painting. You shrink it down, looks better. Make it into a billboard, not as good. Now, in those cases, the bigger the artwork, I think the less extreme that is. So 16x20, probably gonna look pretty good on your computer. Not as much on a billboard. But I've had paintings, like, it's not, I mean, I wouldn't make prints of it, but like I have a big banner that I used when I used to do Aquashella shows, and it had a sea turtle, the original painting, I wanna say it's like 15 inches by 30, and I had it blown up to like 6 feet, 8 feet, 10 feet wide, I don't know, big. On a banner, it looks okay. It's not terrible, but I wouldn't be making prints of it that big. It won't look good because, again, what was this big on the original, you blow it up, now you've got a gap this big. It doesn't matter what resolution it is. It doesn't change. There's nothing in there. You didn't paint anything in there, so when the camera enlarges it, there's still nothing in there. I mean, it might be a solid color of brown. It's still that solid color, but you've got a gap in between the details, so it looks like there's less detail than what you had when it was viewed as intended as a 5x7. So I hope that makes sense, and I will inevitably get somebody who does not understand that concept at all. The camera can't add pencil strokes that you didn't add to the original. So when you stretch it, the camera is just making it bigger. Now that gap in between pencil strokes is bigger than you intended it to be viewed. It looked great small, not good big. That is why that happens, and I do not know why people want to argue that fact. I've got theories. Anyway, let's see. Serving Artist Collective said, when all the art questions are done, your latest book, movie, TV streaming series. Ooh, that's a good one. Throne of Glass by, is it Sarah J. Maas? Wait, is that her name? Throne of Glass? She wrote, what was it? What did I call it? Throne of Bores and Horrors, I called the other books. Oh God, I couldn't stand those books. No, I didn't like them. I really tried to like them. My friend Lena loved them, and like she did this beautiful painting, which is gorgeous. The scenery was cool. And that book is of fairies, and I felt like I should have liked it because it's everything I like. Fairies and all of these different like creatures, and it just, things I would love. And I hated the characters. The main character, I was like, can she just be ended? Let's just take her out, because her nonstop self-hatred, and then mad at people over nothing and just overreacting to things, and just, oh, I didn't like those books. So I didn't read a Throne of Glass, I think is what it is. Because I assumed, like, if that author writes books with characters that are that unlikable, like every character in her books, every single one was so unlikable. There wasn't a single character that I really liked. There were some that were better than others, but I didn't like any of them. So I never bothered. And then she was like, no, Throne of Glass you might like. That one actually is better. All right, I'll give it a try. One of my favorite series of all time. Like, I am definitely going to be doing a reread, and it's long. I'm doing a reread really soon here, because that was the, like, I loved all the characters. I like the character growth. Like, how is that the same author? I don't even know, because these characters have so much more depth. They're so much more likable, versus Throne of Bores and Horrors, or whatever it was, is just, oh, my camera. I just lost the internet. I don't think I lost the internet. I might still be here. It's loading. Let's see. Anyway, yeah, so Throne of Glass, I absolutely loved. So if you are like me and you did not absolutely love her other book that was terrible, you may like these. So that one was really good. And then I just did a reread of the first two from Fourth Wing. So I'm finished. I think I have like 4 hours left on the third book. I don't like it as much as I like the first two. I don't know. There's some really funny parts, so I don't want to say I don't like it, but the first two, like, I couldn't put it down. And I don't know if it's because I'm just coming off of Throne of Glass, which I enjoyed so much. So when you have a book that's so good and you loved everything about it, it's so hard to switch books. So I feel like I might be being a little bit too critical of the third book in Fourth Wing, because I do love those books, but I'm not as like, I felt like the first two I couldn't put down, and this last one I'm just like, it's okay. It's just, I've only got 4 hours left, and I'm like, has anything like, I feel like not that much happened. I expected more stuff to happen, but yeah, so I'm working on those. Or reading through those. No TV, although I do on YouTube. I've been watching Fear Thy Neighbor. Those stories, holy crap, people are crazy. That's been a eye-opening to see how nuts, like, man, I'm glad, like, I don't really talk to any of my neighbors. Like, my only neighbor that I'm friends with in this neighborhood is, like, not that close. So even if that friendship for some reason devolved, we're not really that close to each other. Same HOA, but, like, way other side. So yeah, that is scary. I'm not making friends, like, close friends with direct neighbors. I could see where that could go bad. But anyway, yeah, that's about it. No movies. I don't really watch much. I mean, I watch YouTube pretty much. Although my current thing lately, I've been trying to, the last couple of days, not watch as much. Like, I always have YouTube going, or videos, news, whatever, while I'm working. And I'm trying to either do books or music, more music than anything else. And I am finding myself being so much more productive. I didn't realize how much slower I am when I'm watching, like, news or whatever. Plus, that's also going to put you in a kind of a weird mind state. Listening to music, indie folk has been, like, my current obsession. I don't know, it just changes things. I feel more creative listening to music versus, and I'm working during both. I'm just not getting as much done when I was watching, like, the Fear Thy Neighbor or news or whatever. Like, it's just kind of negative stuff. So yeah, I've been more music lately. So that has been my thing. And of course, reading these books. Let's see. And Teresa said that the work was an 11 by 14. Same thing, that's not that big. Now, I would actually be interested in seeing the original and seeing the what it's looking like for you on the screen. Like, is it only one computer monitor, or is it every computer monitor you've looked at? So you're not, depending on the size of the monitor, you're not stretching it that much, but you're likely still stretching it. I would be curious, shrink it down on the monitor so it's, like, you know, smaller scale, and see if it looks as good that way as it did on the phone. That's going to answer that question, because when, like, even if I take a photo with a phone, if I stretch it out to where, you know, it's like as big as it would be on a computer, it's probably not going to look as good. I have a feeling that if you took that photo and shrunk it, there's on the computer monitor, so it's the same size as what you're looking at on the phone, that it would probably look good. If it's not, then it's something we're going on with a monitor. It could be the color balance. It could be that monitor is hyping up contrast too much. I've seen that. It could be like you different monitors. Sometimes these monitors, the phones will do it too. Sometimes they're like, look how fancy we are. We have, like, our colors, everything's so bold. And it's like, yeah, but it doesn't look real. Like, you're just hyping up saturation. Now my artwork looks weird. So it could be that. That is possible to be the situation going on here. Let's see, 9:59. Man, we did good time-wise. Thank you guys so much for joining. Make sure, thank our I can't talk. Our moderators, I'm just so excited because I get to go see French fry now. Thank our moderators. There are links to their channels in the video description. Joseph live streams all the time, and you get a lot of the same people that are in our chat. You can go chat with during his and watch him paint awesome things. Nick does not upload very often, but when he does, it's definitely something you want to watch. So, you know, subscribe in case he does upload something helpful. Links are in the video description. Thank you to everyone for the super chats. The boys definitely thank you too. Gibson's like, I don't think I'm getting one, but I did. He kind of moved his head. Thank you for that. Thank you for being here. If you have any suggestions for something that you want to see in future live streams, leave a comment. If it has to be something I can get done in an hour and a half. So, you know, we've got some limitations there. What was the last thing? Oh, next week we're going to be doing a art critique. So those of you who are on Patreon, I will be making a post over there, excuse me, and posting where you'll want to send your images if you want to be critiqued. And that is it. I will see you Yeah. Oh, Joseph said I may be coming back soon. Okay, he's been off for a bit. Keep an eye out. Yeah, so subscribe so you know when he comes back. Thank you guys so much, and I will see you next week.